Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest Pro Soccer Talk. I'm your host, Joe Prince-Wright, here in England. Delighted to say, as always, I'm joined by Nick Mendola in Buffalo, New York, and Andy Edwards in Kansas City. Gents, so much going on this summer across the soccer world. Of course, the summer transfer window has really got going in recent weeks since the last time we spoke. Cristiano Ronaldo and that saga, the US men's national team, a lot of players moving here, there, and everywhere. And we're going to do some different things today on the show. We're going to rank some Premier League kits from the new jerseys that have been released so far. So we'll have some fun, as always. But Nick, firstly, how are you, mate? How are things?
I'm good. I think just now I've realized I've officially crossed that point, the tip where I'm going down, and now I'm ready to watch soccer. Like I'm missing it. There was a break we kind of needed from the intensity of last year's Champions League and Premier League. But right now, if you could put a meaningful game on my screen, I would lap it up.
Exactly. We got the Women's Euros coming up right away. So that's perfect, right? To get us started and then just keep going with all these preseason friendlies coming up, a lot coming up in the US as well. So, Andy, what about you? You in the same kind of vibe and mood there? Just getting going now, aren't we?
Well, first things first, 6 days to Buffalo. Spending a little time with you two good gentlemen. But yeah, I think Nick hits the nail on the head right there. We needed a break. We needed an extended break from what the last season was and the way that it was compacted and everything. But I'm ready now. I've had enough break. I think I always hit this point about the midway point of the offseason where I'm thinking, all right, this has been great. I'm a little bored. I need a little bit of something to get the adrenaline going, get the intensity, make my brain work and try to figure out why, I don't know, Manchester United can't create scoring chances or why Spurs can't keep the ball out of the back of their own. I need to figure these problems out because it's just the way my brain works.
Yeah, I mean, mine too, to be honest. And I'm already thinking of when we're all together in Buffalo, it's just going to be like this episode for, however long, 15 hours a day for many days in a row. So cannot wait for that. And let's kick off Pro Soccer Talk this week with the first big segment. We have to start with this, gents. Cristiano Ronaldo has told Manchester United, reportedly, but it's out there, that he wants to leave if an acceptable offer comes in. My big question to kind of take this to the next stage is this a good or bad thing for Manchester United that he wants to leave? Nick, I'm coming straight to you because I think we all agree that actually, even though it's disappointing for United fans and maybe the new manager, Ten Hag, long-term, and even maybe short-term, it might be a good thing that Ronaldo actually wants to leave. Do you agree with that? And what are your thoughts about this whole situation and the way it's been handled so far?
100%. And my thoughts are this guy needs an advisor or a better PR team, because when the story comes out and the next thing you hear is Chelsea or Barcelona, it's like he's trying to alienate the people who like him so much. This is, you think of where he could go and maybe you think, oh, the Bundesliga, does he go to Bayern Munich to fill Lewandowski's shoes or whatever? But for the most part, I think to myself, Cristiano, like where this team of people you have around you, who is telling you what to do? Because you make this a month ago, right? You don't make this decision now, or you don't have this news come out now. So in terms of, I think it also shows us a little bit about where he is and maybe what we knew when they talked about clicks at Manchester United last year. I'm not saying he was the problem. Obviously, they had a lot of problems, but he certainly doesn't look like a guy who was ready to be part of any solution this year or last year.
It's so true, Nick. I mean, the case right now in the situation is that he hasn't turned up for pre-season. He cited some family reasons, and Man United accepted that. But they're also, United, according to reports, just unsure if he's actually going to turn up. I mean, they're heading on their pre-season tour of Asia and Australia in the next few days. So they really don't know if Ronaldo's going to be there. I mean, Jorge Mendes, his agent, is trying to find a solution, like you mentioned. Every big team in Europe, PSG, Chelsea, Bayern, even Barcelona have been mentioned as possible destinations. United don't want to sell, though. That's the interesting thing here. And he's got 1 year left on his current contract, Andy. So what is the best scenario for all? Do you keep around a man like Ronaldo who doesn't want to be there? Or do you actually say, you know what, you can move on. You came back. You were great last season. You've had a great career. You want to play in the Champions League. We understand that. We messed up. We didn't qualify. So you go on. But then you could risk selling to a direct rival, right? So I don't know how this plays out. What's your take on this saga surrounding Cristiano Ronaldo?
The best possible outcome for all parties is a time machine. You go back in time 12 months to the summer of 2021. Manchester United just finished 12 points behind champions Manchester City. You fast forward 12 months, 35 points between the Manchester clubs in the table. They didn't even hit the 60-point mark. And I said at the time, and you can go back and find the videos, I think bringing Ronaldo in, signing him, makes them further from being Premier League title contenders than they were before. That 2020-21 season, they built a foundation. They went young. They had the young group of players under Ole, which we had questions, was he the guy or not? But they had a foundation that they were building. They were building something for the future. And then they brought in a 36-year-old who is now suddenly worried about the long-term or the short-term prospects of his career. He should have been thinking about that last summer. Manchester United should have been thinking about that last summer. It just has turned into, other than the goals that he scored and the his ability to run to the corner of the field, jump in the air and celebrate and have all eyes on him, nothing about this signing has worked well. It completely railroaded the progress that Manchester United had made over the course of about the final 6 months of that 2020-21 season, where they looked genuinely the second best team in the Premier League. And, now a year later, they're unrecognizable at this point. He needs to go for himself. The club needs him to go. They need those wages off the book if they're going to start to there were so many reasons to not do this a year ago. And yet they just went ahead and did it anyway.
Couldn't help themselves. Nostalgia got in the way again. How many times have we seen that for Manchester United in recent years? And it's come back to bite them. I mean, Nick, when we talk about the clubs interested there, we mentioned a few of them. I struggle to think why on earth they would sell him to Chelsea, a direct rival in the top 6, top 4 of the Premier League. Because I think he'd actually work in Thomas Tuchel's system. I think they need a finisher who could just kind of hang around the box. They got a lot of pieces there who can, and maybe adding a few more pieces in an attacking sense that could really help him. So I really don't see them selling him to Chelsea. I think they'd rather just keep hold of him for a season and say, you know what, we're not going to strengthen a rival. So if that is the case, Bayern Munich, PSG, are those some of the clubs where it's the most likely destinations? Napoli's been mentioned as well. He's starting to kind of run out of clubs, right? That could A, afford him. Yes, he's saying that he might take a bit of a wage cut, but B, where it'd be a good fit for him. But I guess if he just wants Champions League, he's kind of narrowing his options down a little bit. So where do you see him actually going if he does leave Manchester United?
Well, Joe, let's start here, and I'll just quickly. What are the two clubs you aren't hearing who would normally be linked in that discussion? Real Madrid and Juventus. Is there a reason for that? That's what I want to know. So if they were to sell to Chelsea, I think it would be a little bit of an indictment on Ronaldo too. Hey, this guy's your problem now. Bayern, to me, is one of the only ones that makes sense. They're not going to sell him to PSG. And here's why. I don't think PSG would buy him. If this is a club that's trying to maybe get rid of Neymar right now. And there's another thing. There's another reason for clubs to be wary. Not that you should ever turn down a world-class player, especially if it's at a position of need. If you are a team like Bayern Munich, if they want to sell Lewandowski, it makes sense to me to have a target striker and fill that need for him. You're not trying to shoehorn him into a position. But I look at what happened with Messi last year, and I look at these two players, Messi and Ronaldo. Messi actually went to PSG. I think he led League One in assists. They won the title. They obviously had that kind of shocker in the Champions League. But what was the story all year? Messi doesn't have 450 goals. And what was the story of Manchester United last year? Ronaldo, even when he was scoring, doesn't have 450 goals. So I think that you have to care very much about the calculus here. And that's why really I only see Bayern Munich as the option for him.
It's a perfect scenario for them. I mean, they won't lose face. Lewandowski obviously clearly wants to go to Barcelona. Okay, we'll replace you with one of the greatest, if not the greatest goal scorers in history. And we get a very similar product on the pitch. So it seems like a win-win-win for everybody involved in that situation. And for Ronaldo, he's already said, right, I want to do it. I want to win trophies in all countries around Europe. He's done it in Italy, Spain, England, obviously, in the past. And, Germany would almost complete the set apart from France. So that's interesting. But Andy, you talked a lot about this, and you were right from the very start about Ronaldo not being a good fit. If he does leave this summer, what do we make of this 1 year, very brief second spell? Because yes, for the overall team, he probably wasn't the best fit, but he did score 24 goals in all competitions. So a lot of people were pointing towards that and saying, look, if you start a new era at United, how are you going to replace those 24 goals? But I feel like you've got strong opinions on this.
I do. I'm just pulling up the numbers here. So he had 18 goals in the Premier League last season, excuse me. Bruno Fernandes had 10. Nobody else had more than 5. And the player who had 5 is no longer really a member of the team as well. And so the momentum, the progress that they had going into last season, I think not only did they stop it, but I think they undid a lot of it because, and to Nick's point about Messi going to PSG and then Ronaldo going to Manchester United and neither of them really setting it alight individually, I think the fact that they were then taken out of scenarios where everything was built around them to maximize their production, their talent, their otherworldness, into new situations where that wasn't the case. Messi going and playing clearly a second fiddle to Mbappe, who they were trying to re-sign for the whole season, and he was the priority. Ronaldo going back to Manchester United, and I think there was an understanding of this is going to be a short-term thing, and so we need him to just play a part in the team. But where has Cristiano Ronaldo ever just played a part in a team? The team has always been about him throughout his entire career, and when you're that talented, I think you get a little bit of leeway to have that mindset. But when you're 36 years old coming into a fairly young team that needs veteran leadership, I think is what that team really needed from him. And it wasn't about how can I go in there and mentor and help guide and help grow these young players. It's how can I get my goals? How can I maximize what I do? And that just completely, that railroaded everything that they had going. And so I think if he goes to Bayern, I think the Bayern fans are very unhappy. Would you trade current Lewandowski for current Ronaldo? I certainly would not in any team in the world, but especially that Bayern team where, to the point I just made, it's already set up to function around Lewandowski. It's not set up to function around Ronaldo. He's going to go there, be unhappy. He's going to be unhappy if he has to stay at Manchester United this season. It's his fault because he made the decision a summer ago. He could have potentially gone to Manchester City. Remember that? I forgot about that until very recently. But he had the choice where he was going to go last summer. I think he made the wrong decision. I think the club made the wrong decision. I think everybody is going to pay the consequences now, a year later, and absolutely nobody's going to end up happy in this situation.
Yeah, well, it's good to see what happens in this situation. It's unfolding fast, but over on Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com, we will keep you updated with the latest on this Cristiano Ronaldo saga, as he looks like he's going to leave Manchester United. He wants to. Man United don't want to sell him. A lot of clubs want to sign him. It's crazy, and this is going to be, I think, the story that dominates the next month or so until we get to the Premier League season. Focusing on Man United quickly, though. Christian Eriksen, that deal is almost done as a free agent. Malacia's come in as a talented young left-back. Frankie de Jong, they're still trying to work out signing him. Nick, what do we make of these moves by Manchester United? Because there's a lot of links here to, obviously, Ajax, Dutch football, and I feel like it will really help bed in Erik Ten Hag's philosophy quicker at Man United. So is this what these moves are all about? Because at the moment, they look like they're just trying to sign silky, creative number 10s. And, I thought England had problems trying to fit 11 right-backs into a team, but Man United might have a few issues with 11 number 10s.
Yeah, to me, if I want to give them the benefit of the doubt under Ten Hag, what I'm saying is that this is going to be a sign. This will serve as a sign when we look back at this time that they were building for a couple of years, that they're giving a manager the chance to build, that it isn't necessarily about this year. Now, as Andy has pointed out an awful lot, it doesn't mean that a month into the season, if they're not 3-0, that it's going to go well for them. And that will be the challenge moving forward. But I look at all these pieces as good moves. Eriksen, I don't necessarily get unless he's willing to be not second fiddle, but 1A fiddle, because this is Bruno Fernandes driving the bus, and we already saw what United looks like with two attacking midfielders in a 4-2-2-2. But I do like, if they land de Jong is the big one. I think he's one of the best players in the world. I think he's been a little bit of a fish out of water at Barcelona. The fact that he doesn't want to leave shows you what they're building at Barcelona. And so I'll be interested to see, but for the most part, I don't know if you guys agree with this, at least from the outset, it looks like Man United has looked at Ten Hag and said, let's give him a couple of years.
Andy, do you agree with that?
Are the fans going to do it, I guess, is the only question. Because, right, I think the board understand now that this constant changing that they've done since Sir Alex retired, it has gotten them nowhere. It's taken them backwards pretty much every single year, with the exception of the one year that they took a patient approach. They brought in Ollie. That was the season that he came in mid-season, and we could rehash that again. How unlucky they were to get a good enough interim manager to keep them there in the race of the top four. But so good that they almost then had to keep him on as manager permanently. And, we know how that works. It's just, there is no clear plan at Manchester United. The clear plan is what we're doing working right now? Keep doing it. Is what we're doing working right now? No, let's completely change it and do something different. That's not a plan.
But it could be a plan now that, like Nick said, if they do stick with it, there is a clear plan, at least in terms of recruitment. It seems that Erik Ten Hag has got a much more hands-on approach than some of his predecessors, where, we're just going to sign Pogba, we're going to sign Rafael Varane, we're going to sign Ronaldo, Cavani, make that work. And a lot of these pieces, they're great players individually, but they just didn't work. So I like some of these signings. I think likes of Eriksen will be able to really usher in and knows the Ajax total football possession-based model. And like Nick said, even if he doesn't play every week, I think it'd be really helpful for Erik Ten Hag to have someone like him, Frenkie de Jong, obviously Donny van de Beek is going to be in and around the team as well. So generally, I think Man United just can probably change their shirts to orange for next season, and they'll be like an Ajax North or a Holland North. But anyway, it's going to be interesting to track how they do in these early months under Erik Ten Hag, see how they look in pre-season. But there are some good noises coming out of Old Trafford and training that he is having an impact early. But like we said, patience. That's what Man United fans need. I don't know if they necessarily have it, or any football fans for that matter. But it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes down under Erik Ten Hag at Old Trafford. Okay, gents, let's now focus on the next big topic. Christian Pulisic. Should the US men's national team superstar move on from Chelsea this summer? The latest is that Chelsea appear to be making him available in some deals. There was talks about offering him to Juventus as part of a Matthias de Ligt swap. You've got the likes of Raheem Sterling, Rafinha, and other attackers been linked to Chelsea. There's been no official word from Christian Pulisic as of right now. Some reports, though, recently have said he's not interested in moving from Chelsea. He wants to stay and fight for his place under Thomas Tuchel. What should he do? I mean, who wants to answer this first? Andy, you want to go ahead? Because
Sure.
This is a dilemma for Christian Pulisic, and probably not one he wants to have a few months before a World Cup.
It's interesting that now the word coming out of the Pulisic camp is that he doesn't want to leave. When a couple of months ago, I think it was trying to get out in front of it and trying to position himself to be, in a good spot to leave, rather quickly, rather cleanly, without making it too messy back at Chelsea. And I think that probably what he, through his agent, has found out is that there's not a ton of clubs at that top Champions League level that are willing to put down 50, 60, maybe 70 million, whatever it would cost to get him away from Chelsea this summer. And so I think he's had to kind of recalibrate his expectations and what he foresees in the season coming up. And that probably means being back at Chelsea, where once again, under Thomas Tuchel, he's going to be kind of a second-ish, a 1.5 choice, I guess, there on one of the wing spots. It's interesting that all the transfer rumors that Chelsea have been linked with kind of play a similar position. And we always know that new managers want to make, whether it's a familiar signing or a splash signing or just make waves for themselves. I think new owners like to do that as well. And obviously having Todd Boehly coming in, he's going to want to put his stamp on the club, especially taking over from Roman Abramovich and what he did for so many years. So it's a really weird period for Pulisic. I think he's probably just going to have to go into preseason, have his head down, work really, really hard, try to get as many minutes as he possibly can, and then make the most of those on the field for Chelsea. I don't think it's going to be a regular starting spot. I don't think he's going to be, relegated to the bench completely, but it's not going to be that perfect situation for him this season anywhere unless he's willing to take a drop down and be outside the Champions League.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I'm just thinking there as well, as you were talking, that Chelsea are going on the US tour. Obviously, Pulisic will be front and center of that. And with a new American owner as well, I'm sure they'd like to explore many more possibilities of marketing him and all the rest of it. But he's never really been a perfect fit for him at Chelsea tactically.
Yes.
So that's the main problem, I think, for him, right? He needs to find somewhere that play. You want to jump in, Andy, again, looks like?
Yeah, I'll respond to that and pose a question to Nick. Based on what Chelsea paid to get Pulisic, 3 years ago now, do you feel like they've gotten proper return on their investment, what he's given them on the field? Because I would think probably not.
I would think probably not, but I think it's closer than we might think. I mean, he has scored some major goals for them, some big goals for them. I'm thinking about the final where he scores a goal and then is immediately injured, literally immediately injured. The injuries have hurt, but when he's been healthy, I mean, let's not forget that for about 2 months, the chemistry between him and Olivier Giroud seemed to keep them afloat in the middle of a season. I'll kind of turn that on its ear. You guys mentioned, and this jumped into my head, and you guys laughed me out of the room, but it's something that I think is a possibility. We mentioned the Delight swap with with Juventus. What about a swap in Raheem Sterling? Could you see Christian Pulisic, becoming the next Riyad Mahrez as a player who becomes, because that's the only way I see him staying with a Champions League club. That's a very astute point you made, Andy, because I imagine what he's hearing, and I'm not going to name clubs, but what he's hearing is you're going to have to, if you want to be the man, which clearly he wants to be, let's be honest, then you're going to have to go outside that Champions League. If you want to be in the spot you're in, well, we've got places for you, and you're going to have to fight, and you'll still play, but you're going to really have to earn being the man. And I start to look at other places, and I just think, oh, his old buddy Erling is across town, and Chelsea wants Raheem Sterling. So I think you have to start manufacturing these moves in your head. And it may take, to your point, him being impressive on this Chelsea tour and kind of making the shop window get a little bit brighter. Maybe he needs to squeegee the front of the shop window so he's a little shinier.
Front and center, Christian Pulisic. He's certainly that in the minds of USMNT fans ahead of the World Cup. And I think he might not necessarily get a move in the Premier League, but I feel like he could go to a Champions League caliber. It's still in the group stages of that and be a key player. But there aren't many opportunities out there for him right now, which is strange to say. So I'm just going to ask you this question, Andy. What would you do if you were Christian Pulisic right now? I mean, would you leave or would you stay at Chelsea? I think it's risky either way ahead of a World Cup. You could stay at Chelsea, not play that much, but you'd be kind of rested, but you then wouldn't be really in your groove. Or you could go elsewhere and you might not even play that much, or you might play a ton and get injured, right? It's really like 50-50 situation for Christian Pulisic right now. It's not a choice that I would want to have.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty clear, actually. I think it's stay at Chelsea because you are known. There's no, new acclimation period or anything to go through. You know the coach, you know the system pretty well. It simply is a matter of, one, is he going to be healthy for the majority of let's just talk about the first half of the season right now, because that's what stands between us and the World Cup. Can he stay healthy for those first 4 months of the season? If he can, he'll probably perform pretty well because he has been a solid player for Chelsea at the very worst when he has been healthy. The issue has been being healthy and being on the field. So if he gets the opportunity to play 20 to 25 games across all competitions before the World Cup, then one, that means he's stayed fit. Two, he's probably producing at a pretty decent level to get that many games. And so I think that's a pretty good situation to be in. Now, he's going to have to fight, to the point you made, Joe, he's going to have to fight wherever he goes if he wants to be in a Champions League club. And it's probably better to just be at the one that you know and the one that knows you as well for this little 6-month period leading up to the World Cup.
Nick, do you agree with that?
Yes, I think that was a pregnant pause because I don't even know what to make of it. What I want is for him to be healthy at the World Cup. And I'm just going to be selfish, United States men's national team fan right here. I don't care if he has to go to the moon to play on a club for 4 months. Is he going to be healthy when we get to November? Because it is literally all that matters. Guys, I think we've talked about this and we'll continue to talk about this. I bring it up a lot. We get maybe 15 World Cups in our lifetimes that we're cognizant and aware and at our very best for on the average human life cycle. And I am all about this winter. So what's best for his career is honestly is not moving now. It's being the man for at least 2 weeks and showing up and catching the attention of the world at that tournament. A lot of people will move in January because of the waves they made. And a lot of U.S. players may move in January if Gio Reyna has a heck of a tournament. So I am very, very excited for that. And staying at Chelsea where he's comfortable and trying to play his way into that team is probably the best move.
I don't know. I still think it has to look more longer term. If there's an opportunity to come up at this summer and play at a team where he's going to be the main man, I still think he should take it, even if it's short term. Might be a bit different for him to adapt, but I just still don't think the system that Thomas Tuchel is going to play at Chelsea suits his game best. And if I was him and a decent opportunity come up, whatever that looks like, I would probably take it. Or maybe I said I was 50-50 earlier. I'm probably 60-40 in favor of Pulisic moving on as we talk, but it's close. It's not an easy decision for him. I think he probably wants to prove a few people wrong as well. And the other issue here is Chelsea, from their point of view, he's got 2 years left on his contract. So now is the time to sell him if you are going to sell him and move him on, and his value's high. But we'll keep you updated with all the latest Christian Pulisic news, transfer news, USMNT news over at Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com. There's a lot of interest in him, and it's going to be a really interesting summer for him ahead of a World Cup in the fall. Gents is now focused on the other USMNT transfer news. A lot of players have been moving on, a lot of movement and a lot of things for us to talk about in recent weeks. My question to you is this: which US players have got the best moves so far, and who needs one most? Because aside from Christian Pulisic maybe moving on, there's been loads of deals going on. I mean, PFOC to Union Berlin is a really good one. Tyler Adams and Brendan Aronson to Leeds. Zach Steffen heading on to Middlesbrough to play regularly. Eden Horvath to Luton to play regularly. Matt Turner to Arsenal. Some really good moves. If I just list them out there. Some big moves for these young US players. Andy, I want to come to you. What's the best move, do you think, in terms of for the player and also for the US men's national team?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think it's going to be Tyler Adams, ultimately. We know his importance to the U.S. men's national team. We know the role that he plays. We know his skill set specifically. And I think if he goes to Leeds, if that deal ends up getting done, then I think it's a very strong indicator of the way that Jesse Marsch is going to want to set Leeds up to play. Because Tyler Adams is almost an extension of Jesse Marsch out on the field. The familiarity that he has with him going all the way back to New York Red Bulls, and then the short time that they spent together at Leipzig as well. The familiarity is important, but I just think that what Adams does, the smart defensive work, the pressing, the ball winning, the counterattack launching, and to the point that Julian Lescott made to us this week, so smart reading the game defensively. He's an incredible emergency defender. I think that gives us a good indicator of how that team's going to play with Jesse Marsch as the permanent manager. And I think it provides a good landing spot for Tyler Adams as well. I think any other club or any other manager even in the Premier League, I would have big questions because he lacks a little bit of size. He's obviously got the motor, but the physicality of the Premier League is just something different. The pace as well is just different than anything else, anywhere else in the world. And so I think there would be a bit of an adjustment, but I trust, Jesse Marsch's ideas for Tyler Adams, because I think he is so familiar with him as a player and the importance that he has to the Premier League. If he can have a good importance to the national team, I should say, if he has a good first few months in the Premier League, that sets the U.S. men's national team up so well, because everything in that team revolves around Tyler Adams.
Yeah, I like it. I think obviously we're seeing Jesse Marsch shifted Leeds to be a bit more stable after Marcelo Bielsa left and he replaced him. I think Adams's addition basically makes them even more stable. Like you said, he's a great firefighter, puts out promising situations for other teams very well, just plugs those gaps nicely. I do have a few issues maybe about the physicality in the Premier League, and I think we've seen Kai Havertz, Pulisic, and many others come over from the Bundesliga, and we kind of think they're quite similar, the Bundesliga and Premier League, as a good match recruitment-wise, but it's different. The pace is different. You always speak to players about that, but it does take time. So maybe we'll have to be a bit more patient with Tyler Adams, but I do think for him and Brendan Aronson, I think that's a really good landing spot for them. And I think even if Leeds don't do as well as many think they will after losing some big players this summer, I think for those two players individually, they'll play a lot. And under Jesse Marsch, he will certainly be able to help them settle in a little bit more. Nick, any other players there? I know you're a big PFOC fan, and obviously his move after a great season in Switzerland, I think could potentially solve that number 9 issue, right? If he gets off to a flying start at Union Berlin. But him or any others you want to focus on about the best moves and maybe someone else who needs to move?
Well, yeah, so that's the short term, right? When we talk about what move benefits him, a player the most, it's him. Because Union Berlin moved on their big-time striker. So this is someone that will at least have a chance, if he isn't even just straight up being targeted for it, to be a star in a Europa League team and a target forward and really show Greg Berhalter exactly what he's missing. I think, if there's ever a chance to erase a couple of bad misses in World Cup qualifiers, it's doing it on a big stage that everybody else is seeing as well. So I love that move for PFOC. I like the Aronson move a lot. And then I will throw a wild card out there because the goalkeeper situation is very, 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 very interesting. I think Matt Turner is fine at Arsenal. I think he's more of a shot stopper. He's someone who can sit in a second chair and still be a starter. Whereas Stefan and Horvath, they both need to be out there. They both need to be fresh and moving their feet and be a part of playing the ball and being a part of a system. So I think all of the goalkeeper moves have a tendency to move. And then one name I felt like I had to say it on this week's show is Brendan Aronson's brother, Paxton Aronson, who just absolutely shined at the U20 World Cup. And I think it can only be a matter of time before he's somewhere being eyed as, not necessarily like for like, but the way we saw Gio Reyna emerge from a World Cup cycle, U20 World Cup cycle, and become a star or star in the making in Europe.
Yeah, congrats to the U20 team, obviously making the Olympics in Paris in 2024 and winning the CONCACAF championship as well. That was great to see. And as you said, Nick, some really talented players that I'm sure if they're not already in Europe, they will make their way over there very soon indeed. Andy, out of some of the players who haven't moved yet, who needs a transfer most ahead of the World Cup? I know we focused on Christian Pulisic a lot during this show, but any other players you think, hey, they really need a move to freshen things up and to get ready for either battling to be in the squad or maybe battling to be in the starting lineup for Greg Berhalter's side?
Yeah, I'm eagerly awaiting another Chris Richards loan to Hoffenheim. Probably, I would just assume that that's in perpetuity now, just every season loaned on to them, where he's been pretty good enough, I guess. We need a strong first half of the season for him to step up and make one of those starting center back spots his own. And then along the back line as well, Serginho Dest. The situation at Barcelona, even if you just remove Serginho Dest from it, is not a great situation at the moment. The financial issues that they're still having, being able to register newly signed players in the team is still a bit of an issue. Yet they're out here talking about some of the biggest names in the world on the market. I don't understand what's going on at Barcelona, but I think probably at this point it's pretty clear that Serginho doesn't really fit into Xavi's tactical plans. I think the fact that Dani Alves came back midseason last term and just became the starter once again at 35, 36, 37 years old is a pretty good indicator of that. So if he's going to be the starting right back, would like to see him playing regularly at a fairly high. It doesn't need to be Barcelona. I know that we love having these American players at these institutional clubs that are so recognizable all around the world. But if you go there and you don't play, it's no better than going somewhere else and not playing. Or you could go somewhere that's going to play you and give you an opportunity. And so I'd like to see him get out of there. Maybe somewhere in Germany. I think Serginho Dest would probably fit in because the fullbacks are asked to do so much of the overlapping. There's a ton of great central midfielders in the Bundesliga as well. And so the wide areas really belong to the fullbacks. And I think that's the way the national team wants to play as well under Berhalter. So, I don't have a club for you, but I know that there's a fit in there somewhere.
Yeah, Dest is the one player I really hope, if he isn't playing regularly at Barcelona, he gets a move elsewhere. And also Tim Weah. I think it's a really big year for him just to stay injury-free. Obviously, Lille have had some issues in recent seasons, not quite at the level that they were. But this could be a big opportunity for him this season to really take on the mantle as a genuine starter. We know what he's capable of. We've seen that for the US. But if he isn't going to be part of Lille's plans, where can he go? Can he go to somewhere in Germany, perhaps, or elsewhere in France, or even in England? And really, I think maybe the step to the Premier League might be a bit too much for him at this stage. But we've seen he is, at the moment, my locked-on starter. And I think for all of us, right, on the right-hand side for the US. So we really need him to have a really good few months at the start of the season. Stay injury-free. That's the most important thing for Tim Weah and a lot of these US players. And also, I'm just thinking about this out loud. Josh Sargent, again, another guy who's dropped down to the championship at Norwich City. Could he maybe go back to the Bundesliga and make a late surge towards this US squad? I don't know. I've chucked out a few names there, Nick, but any other situations we should keep an eye on when it comes to the USMNT and the transfer window this summer?
Yeah, and now I feel like a little bit speaking out of left field because I'm not a great follower of Valencia, but I would love to know if Yunus Musa is going to play in the midfield there. If we're talking about ideal situations ahead of a World Cup, I would like him in the middle rather than out wide. But for the most part, yeah. And even with Josh Sargent, he was the name I thought about mentioning, and you just did. But at the same time, if there's a guy who could use with maybe a couple extra yards of space to clean up goals and to get himself in order, I don't think the championship is a bad place if he can keep a starting space at Norwich.
Yeah, exactly. Build a bit of confidence, bang in 10, 12 goals early in the season, and who knows, he could be on the plane to Qatar with the rest of the US team. Okay, we'll keep you updated with all the latest USMNT transfer news over at Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com. A lot for us to report in the last few weeks, a lot of big moves and a lot of other big moves potentially happening. So we will keep you updated, and it will keep us very busy indeed in this World Cup year. Okay, gents, let's focus now on ranking the new Premier League kits for the 2022-23 season. We always have fun here at Pro Soccer Talk, but we're going to have even more fun with this segment, I'm sure. As you know, you can see we're 3 stylish chaps here on the screen. Obviously, we know what we're talking about when it comes to what makes a good kit or a bad kit. There are some really good ones, actually. Have really snazzy numbers, I would say, in the Premier League this season. A lot of teams seem to be making, shall we say, some statements. So, Nick Mendola, is there any kits here that you think are your favourites so far? Any really catch your eye? I mean, what are some of the trends here when we look at these jerseys? Because for me, there's some vibrant out there colours that I really like. But you go ahead, mate. What's your favourite?
Well, I don't want to sound lame and go with the big team, but I kind of like the outline of the little bit of claret or red or whatever you call it in the new Man City kit. That one has kind of caught my eye. I've been mostly noticing little details, right? Like what I like about the Leicester jersey is the gold crest. These are all interesting to me. My favorite is still, I know this sounds goofy, but what Palace is doing with kind of like we're gonna be the 2-stripe team, and this is our look, and it's a unique look. So I would say that the thing that stood out most to me is Palace kind of making a statement like, this is us. This is what we're going to be.
Yeah, with the away kit, it does look like they've given some crayons to somebody.
I like it.
And so try and colour in the lines as best as you can. But no, I like it. It's out there. Andy, you obviously like Palace as well, but any others stand out for you?
Yeah, Palace need to lean all the way in. They are the Eagles. They've got the white shirt with the red and blue on it. Become America's Premier League team. It's right there. All the foundational pieces. Seriously, it is a great looking kit. The contrast of the bright blue and the bright red on that white shirt, it looks great. I like what Brentford are doing as well, keeping a kit for a second year. First season in the Premier League. It was a really good looking shirt last season, the red and white stripes. I think we can officially say now, for the fact that they're keeping it for a second season and they are in the Premier League, it's time for Sunderland and it's time for Stoke to move aside. The red and white stripes in the Premier League at least belong to Brentford now.
There you go. And talking about that, my hometown team, Southampton, have gone totally away from the red and white stripes and turned a few heads. They're basically Ajax, essentially. They've gone for the red big stripe down the middle, 2 white. And it kind of works. They've been mixing up a little bit the last few years of just pure red, or they've had the sash to a nod for the anniversary kits. It's interesting. I think it definitely divides opinion, and more so does the away kit with the wave design that you can see there. That's either, as we say here in England, is Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. It's a sandwich spread. That seems to divide opinion. I'll bring some over for you guys when we catch up over the summer. But yeah, I'm not too sure on some of these designs. I mean, I'm looking here. Liverpool have kind of played it safe, so have Nottingham Forest. I like Forest kit.
I like Forest a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Garibaldi red is the official jersey color there. So, yeah, without a sponsor, it looks good. I'm assuming they're going to add a sponsor. But I really do like what North London clubs have done. Arsenal and Tottenham, just like a lot of class about those ones. I mean, the collar on Arsenal's looks great. The video to unveil it was brilliant. And Tottenham as well, Andy, it kind of feels like Gareth Bale should be rocking up in this jersey. It feels like about 9-10 years ago. Very similar looks to those. So what do you guys think about some of these other jerseys? Go ahead.
It's nice that clubs are taking a chance again, I guess, because we went through a period with kits where they were just really safe, and that led to a lot of kind of boring looking kits. And this is not just Premier League. This is around the world. It was an issue for a time. But now I think we're getting to a point where you can just about flick on a game and it'll take you about 2 seconds. You don't got to look at the scoreboard. I think you can look at what's on the field and pretty quickly suss out, okay, this is so-and-so versus so-and-so, because they are identifiable. And I think that isn't that the point of a kid? Obviously, it's to sell these days and for the revenue that's involved, but it's to be recognizable at the blink of an eye when somebody sees you playing. And I think we've gotten to a strong point with that with a lot of teams in the Premier League now.
Well, I like it's interesting you say that, because with Liverpool, I love the way their jerseys are going to look for the other competitions. If you saw the font change that they're making, but because the Premier League gives us this, and honestly, it's iconic, the identifiable numbers and name on the back. That's why I don't think they're making as much of a statement. I don't know. I want to see some more swings for sure. I don't like Newcastle going straight up standard. I understand they want to show that they're fans, that we're black and white stripes and we're not going to mess with you too much. We're a new ownership group. Look, we're still Newcastle. Hey, I really don't like the away kit. It's kind of boring. Amongst some things that make me look at like Everton and Wolves, they are going with what you're saying. Hey, no chances here, no risks. Maybe the sponsors change. Maybe there's a slight piping change so you can buy a new jersey. But I don't know. I don't know if taking chances pays off on the main primary kit almost ever, because it's such a tradition-based culture.
That's very true. It's very true. So I've loved this segment. Maybe we'll bring this back throughout the summer as more kits have been released. Because, yeah, it's great to be a fashionista from time to time, as we all are, clearly. But in the comments, anybody watching this video, let us know your favorites. Obviously, we've shown a few of these. And over on Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com, we have a post ranking the new kits, which obviously everybody agrees with those rankings about which team has the best jersey for this season. So a lot of debate. Get in the comments below. Let us know which new kit for the upcoming Premier League season that you really like the look of. And yeah, I've really liked breaking that down, guys. Something quite different for us here at PST. Okay, all left for me to say is thanks to everyone for watching. Lads, thanks for joining me as always. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your summers. We'll be here throughout the summer. Still so much going on with the transfer window and building up to the new Premier League season. We're nearly getting there, lads. Pre-season's nearly here for these Premier League clubs, so even more for us to talk about. But thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll speak to you all very soon indeed. Cheers.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.